Welcome to Show Me Sports Legacies. Tonight we bring the second part of the sports voice of North Central Missouri, Tom Johnson, coming to you from. In our last episode with Tom, we got into a lot of the great stories of his coverage of the Trenton Bulldogs, North Central Missouri Pirates and Lady Pirates basketball. It's the voice for KTTN-FM, KGOZ FM 101.7. And we're going to get into more of those things today. We want to thank KTTN for letting us have some clips from Tom's career of calling sports in North Central Missouri. In our last episode, we finished with the intersection of the young coach, Chris Ockenfels, my co-host, with his great team in 2004 that went 14-0 and won the Penn Valley Holiday Classic over O'Hara High School in Kansas City. Since we taped our last episode, we came up with the audio call of the shot by Sheena Perry with an assist from Amber Van Deventer, leading the Trenton Lady Bulldogs to a victory in the Penn Valley Holiday Classic over Kansas City O'Hara High School. This is in overtime. Here's a call by Tom Johnson with James Arnold providing color commentary.
Homer passes into the corner, dribbling it through her legs is Snyder. Passes inside the lead, goes up for the shot, hits nice bucket there by Lee. Good under pressure, turned around and made a big bucket. 10 seconds left for Trent. Can definitely hold the last shot here. Yeah, Van Deventer the ball with 7. Chance for Trent to win the game. Van Deventer will drive. Pass to Perry. 3-point shot at the buzzer. Good for two. Gina Perry, 3-point time on the clock. Bulldogs lead it with about 1 second remaining.
That was the shot that did it, bringing them from a 1-point deficit with less than 3 seconds remaining in the game to win the title of the Penn Valley Classic, leading that team to a 14-0 start to an outstanding season. We've got more games to talk about. We got more things to talk about. Tom has a rich history of covering sports in North Central Missouri. We're going to get into a lot of North Central Missouri College Pirates and Lady Pirates basketball, which he has been the voice of since he moved to the community over 22 years ago. One of the things we're going to talk about, we're going to pick the best 5 players, the best team of girls basketball players in North Central Missouri over the last 15 years. We'll also have clips from Meadville Championship, clips from Gallatin, Milan, Trenton, and the Mercer girls basketball dynasty. Lots of stuff upcoming in this episode, so let's get to it.
We got to hear this other game, though. He's got another one in the memory banks because you said most significant, and then there was another one. What have you got?
In the biggest game that I've called, is it one of them? And I don't remember many of these, but Jeremy Esri, I think this would be his favorite game, was the one that got the Pirates over the hump to the national tournament for the first time. The Ketchum Center that day was as alive as I can remember it for any game. I don't have any play-by-play from that game, but I do remember that game because, it was that was a significant moment for the Pirate men's basketball program. They had been very good under Steve Richmond, but they were just they would run into Penn Valley every year in that semifinal or region, and just they'd find a way to lose by 3.
Well, it's like Chiefs fans now. I mean, we go to Super Bowls, right? I mean, but
it's what we do.
For 50 years, we didn't go to Super Bowls.
We didn't do it for the longest time.
So people think, well, we just go to the national tournament. The Pirates go to the national tournament every year. The women go to the national tournament.
They were as talented and snakebit as a team as I can remember. There was that one year where Penn Valley goes. We had that really good team. I think Jared Boone is on that team. Certainly Thurkeld was, Jory Woodson. And we went, I want to say 28-4. Certainly Steve's best team. Penn Valley is 23-8. So not bad at all, and a very solid number 2 seed, capable of beating us. They get punished for having a ineligible player. They bump down to 0-31. They had to take all their wins and bump them. They keep them in the tournament, bump them to a 4 seed, lo and behold, who ends up playing the 1 seed and upsetting us.
Oh, yeah.
That's rough. That's rough when things work against you in that way.
Okay, so this other clip is another one of those that this game had some significance, and it might get lost in the history of good teams in Trenton. But this is the first GRC crossover championship game, and I'm going to load this one up, and then we'll talk about it.
Down to 12 seconds. Trenton's not fouling. The ball goes left side. Here's Stoll. Stoll off to Craig. Craig stolen away. Trenton has it. Dylan Harris. 3. Good! At the horn! Dylan Harris drills a 3-point shot on the pull-up, and has stunned Stanberry at the horn. They call it a 2, a foot on the line, 51-49. Steal and a bucket for Dylan Harris of the Trenton Bulldogs, his only points of the night, as Trenton wins the Grand River Conference Championship. A steal at the three-point arc, about 2 seconds left to go as Dylan Harris pulls up and drills the shot for the win.
At Trenton High School, too.
At Trenton High School, and what I remember about that is we were just so excited to be in a conference.
Oh, yeah.
And that we got to host that first or inaugural crossover where the winners of the East played the winners of the West for the championship.
And Stanberry was a powerhouse.
And Stanberry was really good. And you kind of go into those back-to-back games, which the girls also played Stanberry.
Mm-hmm.
And we won both of those games in our gym. And the girls were supposed to win and won a close game. But you thought, well, just happy to be here with the boys because Stanberry's really, really good. And we just hung in there. And then Stanberry got to the end and kind of just gave us every chance to win that game. They had a couple turnovers. They actually had the ball there.
Right.
Under 20 seconds with a chance to win it and threw it away, and we grabbed it and shot it at the horn.
I'll explain that call because I've never been enamored with that call because I'm watching it nervously. Stanberry has the ball, and I'm thinking, okay, Stanberry's going to shot. They're going to hit it and win, or we're going to go to overtime. Trenton gets the ball, and instead of me reacting to where the ball is, I think you heard it in my call, Trenton with the ball, so-and-so, there's the shot. Like, I'm no longer reacting to what's happening on the floor. I'm just reacting to what I'm seeing, which is a completely different call than I would have liked, but it is what it is at the end.
And no timeout in that.
Right.
So Coach Austin had elected, let's just let her rip, right? And a lot of coaches do that. And it worked out because Stanberry was on their heels now. They thought they were going to win. Now they're running back on defense, and we throw it up ahead. And I can remember that Dylan was super cold that night.
Right.
And hadn't hit anything. And for you to jump in there at the end and say his only bucket or his only points was bang, bang, spot on, because that's what that game was like, as he struggled from the outside, and yet we grinded and found a way to get to that point. And he wasn't shy because good shooters never are, and he pulled up and hit it.
It's not a bad spot to broadcast right above the student section. That's easily the loudest I've heard that gym, certainly from the corner that the students call home.
Right.
Yeah.
And we redid the gym a year prior to that, kind of knowing we were going to get in the GRC, and had made that area for you, and then moved our student section over to that side. So that was one of the first big games where we had the student section right underneath you.
Right. That was a good grab. That was a good memory.
Yeah.
Maybe not for Coach Groomer and company.
Yeah. There were some Stanberry fans that were, as you said, stunned.
I'll give you a story going back to what we were talking about earlier, too, that Trenton girls game against Southeast. So this is kind of one of those where you look and you go, really? So Jim Bly, may he rest in peace, passed away a couple of years ago, miss him dearly, ran UClick TV, and he had offices in Kansas City, did a lot in Kansas City, especially with suburban schools, and he's trying to tell me before this game, I know this is a big game, you're going to have to call this down the middle. Because I'm trying to get some interest in Southeast, and you're asking a whole lot here, Jim. Like, he asked me the same thing for the Penny Trenton game the next year, where the Bulldogs got upset down in. I said, I can do that. That's not as difficult, just to get excited for both teams. But you're asking a whole lot for this Southeast Trenton game for me to call it down the middle.
Generate that from somewhere.
Yeah, the things you're asking, you said, I'll do what I can.
So that was an interesting time in Trenton broadcast history when UClick came around, and it was kind of people trying to transition to the whole YouTube online phenomenon. And you had worked out something to where you could broadcast, and your voice was going to be on the Trenton radio
and on UClick,
but also pumped into Jim Bly's UClick, who was actually filming the game next to you. So he was using his video and your audio synced up to broadcast that online for his medium, and
Correct.
Then you were still broadcasting. So you were kind of doing double duty there, and it worked out for a while.
And I will say this too, the games that I get especially fired up for, the further I have to travel to go to a game, the more listeners I know there are going to be.
That's a good point too.
I know there's a lot of people in Lee Summit for that game, but there's a lot of people in Grundy County that are listening to that game. And that point doesn't go over my head.
Yeah, because this is a radio game.
Yeah.
Because
It's Saturday
travel,
afternoon.
yeah.
Princeton has a chance to go to the Final Four. That's a big deal in this town.
Yeah, and they're traveling south to the city. It's not a game in Bethany or even Lawson.
It's such a cool gym.
It is a great gym.
Yeah.
It is one of the best high school because it's big, but it's got that old flair, and they've done a good job keeping the nostalgic feel to that gym instead of the blah blah.
I had a game in that era where I'm at the Final Four. I guess Misha wants us to call it the Show Me Showdown, the Final Four.
Right.
We'll leave
Trademark,
CBS,
NCAA, trademark.
Okay, Show Me Showdown. I'm doing the championship game, and I'm not sure which Kansas City team was playing, but they were very good. It might have been Barstow. Had a Kansas guy coaching them. Might have been Billy Thomas, if I remember. That was the Michael Porter.
Oh, I was at that game. You're talking the Barstow versus
Yes,
Father Tolton game?
I'm courtside, and there's going to be a big crowd, but I had never been at Mizzou Arena where I look up. It wasn't sold out, but there was 14-4 in the stands, and it seats 15-5. It's a big crowd.
Class 3, mind you.
Yeah. Jim, in the middle of the first quarter, jokingly pokes me on the shoulder and said, "You're sitting next to Jay Nixon. Watch what you say, the governor's next to you."
No pressure.
Yeah.
So why were you doing that game? I guess I don't remember.
He had Barstow sponsors.
Oh,
because he would work his way into Kansas City.
Okay.
So he's also, with all of the excitement in there for Tolton Catholic, this is a Barstow broadcast. Don't lose your mind over Michael Porter doing anything overly special.
That game had 4 D1 players in it. It had the
Yeah.
Porter brothers, and then Barstow had 2. They had
kid
Jerron Rush's kid,
Yeah.
and then they had a kid that ended up going, a left-handed kid that went to Nebraska,
Yeah.
and then ended up transferring somewhere out of Nebraska. Yeah,
Tulsa, I think.
yeah, there you go.
Yep.
So, yeah, that game was unbelievable.
Yeah. That one was fun.
Didn't know you called that, so there you go. You learned something new.
We get hyped up about all the sports, and we love to talk baseball, but we're kind of basketball guys at heart. And there's just something about the energy in a gym, and basketball is, it's fun. It's fun to coach. It's fun to watch. It's fun to play.
The thing about basketball, too, is I openly admit that from about February 1st, once you get through tournaments in January, about February 1st to February 20th, I'm burnt out.
Yeah.
I love
It is
basketball,
tough.
but
It
I'm
is tough,
but
yeah.
It's a long season.
I'm burnt out. Districts bring it right back. You get a good district game in a packed gym that's loud, they're not like it. They're not like it. It's even football's fun, but I'll use this as an example. I went and covered Penny against Adrian in the Class 1 state championship game. It's at Faroe Field. You got 2,000 people there, maybe more than that, in a 62,000 seat stadium. And you are 8 stories above the field up on the upper level of the press box. You're getting a little bit of noise, but it's not the same feeling as you get in a packed basketball gym on March the 1st.
You were talking about that district game. That was a defeat for the Bulldogs at Penny, that you had to play that one down the middle. But that game had such swings.
That was an amazing game.
It just accelerated all to the end. And, we got down, 17 or 18 points in the third
Went
quarter.
to a press
Yeah.
with about 4 minutes left. And to this day, I have never seen a lead dissipate that quick.
Yeah.
Everybody in the barn is thinking, this is Penny's day. The Hornets are just going to win this.
And then bang, 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 bang. Steal, 3, steal, layup.
And, I'll say this because we've talked about this, that the class right behind that great class had great athletes and players. And that game was Lexi Whitaker was a whirling dervish in that press. And Michaela had her best game probably ever and just was nails because Micah was in foul trouble.
Right.
And to watch those kids who I got to coach as a youth coach and watch them just blend in and be exactly what was needed at that moment, the athleticism that they...
I've talked briefly to Brian about it, but I think he got to the point of the girls are saying, let's press, let's press, let's press, let's make them uncomfortable. And I think with about 4.5 minutes left, down by whatever it was, 14-15, I think he just got to the point of saying, got nothing to lose at this point, let's roll.
Yeah. And they came back, and then they did everything right. It was just crushing at the end because the ball bounced off on a shot with just enough time, bounced perfectly to somebody streaking up the floor, knocked it down. It's kind of like one of those Mizzou losses.
Well, really, it wasn't so dissimilar to the Stanberry Trenton we just listened to.
Right.
Trenton had the ball. You thought we're either going to overtime or we're going to win it here. And then, like you said, the ball bounced off the rim and just enough time for that girl to take a couple dribbles and release that shot, and it went in, and that was it. And everybody was either elated or shocked because Trenton had come all the way back. But
it was clear if you had to play that one down the middle, that would be a great game because it was fundamentally exciting for both teams.
yeah, that's a good point.
Absolutely. I had somebody ask me, this would be a good question for you, Hawk, and I know we probably see different games down through the years, but somebody asked me, if you were to take, and this was a girls' basketball question, we've had 2 Division I players in our area, Sierra Michaelis and Katie Pauley in the last decade. If you were to take your top 5 starting lineup and or top 10 in just the listening area, not games that I've done games with girls that are well outside.
Oh, wow. Wow. A Tom Johnson listening area
You got to
starting lineup.
And I'm sitting there going, well, Sierra Michaelis scored 3,800 points. I know it's Class 1, but at the end of the day, I don't care who you're doing.
No, and she ended up being D1 and
At
playing
Mizzou.
on winning Mizzou teams, no-brainer.
So Milan opens their new gym. I don't know if you made it over there for this game. Milan opens their new gym, and I think it was 2021, so it would have been the year after the boys made the Final Four during COVID.
Right.
And this is the first year that either Misha had made the decision or they just made the decision because of COVID rules that they're going to have these quarterfinal games in high school gyms. So a month after Milan opens their new gym, and nobody knew how loud it was, they're hosting Skyline in the state quarterfinals. And it's a heck of a game. Skyline got him by about 6, but that gym, if you think Milan's new gym, it's kind of quiet. If there's nobody in there, pack that thing to the rafters. In that game, my ears were still ringing until about Monday morning.
So you've got Pauly and Michaelis on that team.
Right. Ainsley has a spot.
Ainsley's got a spot.
Tolson.
But now you've got essentially 2 guards and a 3.
Now I got to think about this.
Are you doing best 5 or are you doing by position?
No. You know who has a spot? No questions asked? Lindsey Volmer.
I was going to say Elsie Greenwood, but you're probably right with Volmer.
Volmer, I would take as the best player at Hamilton I've seen, but Nora Ford, I mean, how good was she for Jenny?
And
let alone what she did at Hamilton.
And Greenwood went toe-to-toe with Michaelis.
So you got those 4. If I'm just looking for a glue player at that point, because I don't have a center, I don't know if I've seen a really dominant center in the area. You know, that 6-footer who just controls the paint. Micah Hurley's pretty good.
Yeah.
If I had to take a 5th starter just to be that defensive drive the opponent nuts, I'd go Micah.
What about, did you ever cover the Hale or the Southwest girls and their run?
Not
they
much.
They had a center that was really good.
Right.
Scored a ton of points. And
if I would have seen more of Chillicothe, I probably would have maybe one of the Hornets on there because go back before Darren Smith, but they've had some really good players.
Wow. That's pretty cool that you have that Rolodex of players that you've called.
And I'm sitting there giving that 5 going, Amber Van Devener needs a spot, doesn't she?
Right.
She was good.
Yeah. Come off the bench for you there.
Yeah.
Those are pretty strong players.
Yeah.
So in girls basketball, North Missouri has had it pretty good.
Not bad.
Pretty good for the last 15 years. Okay, so talked about that penny game where the girls as juniors lost. They got bounced out in softball. And when we talked to Ainsley, most of those teams, they got their one last bite at the apple as seniors. So talk about the best softball game or most memorable softball games that you...
It was a state final. I would take that Trenton team head-to-head with Bowling Green 100 times out of 100, but they had a D1 pitcher and a D1 catcher.
Yeah, and the D1 catcher was probably the best player in the state.
Right.
And the best player of the state made the best play of the year in the biggest game. And sometimes you just got to tip your cap because
it's a call I still have though on Dog Bites on Thursday nights out at Hy-Vee. It's a call I still have on there. Dog Bites the football show, but I got Macy Moore's game tying home run in extra innings.
That was a big one. And then the way that game played out, it had everything. Drama.
I've got a clip. It's not that home run, and I know there are other moments, but this is a pretty good one.
First time all day that Bowling Green is a runner on third. No score in the top of the 7th inning. Set the pitch. It's ground to the left side. Hurley's going to come home. Gets it to Croy for the tag out at home. Croy puts the tag down on Prater for the out. What a play by Micah Hurley. An unbelievable backhanded throw by Hurley, flicking that ball right to Croy for the out at home plate. 5-2, the foot out. Meyer reaches first on the fielder's choice. Tremendous play made there by the Bulldog seniors.
And like usual, Micah Hurley ended up making a big play in a big game in a big moment. She seemed to find a way to do that in a lot of Trenton Bulldog big games.
I've told her mom more than once, and I've told her, I talked to Max a lot. I said, that's the best defensive play I've ever seen. And it was in the 7th inning of the state final.
Yeah, and she also hit one of the biggest hits of the game. Of course, she had the 2 home runs, so it's hard to say. But she had the hit that broke it open that led to the controversial play at third and home. But yeah, she had a great game.
You know what I love about those teams, and what we can talk softball and basketball. So was it Lexi had 2 home runs in the quarterfinals at Holden?
Holden, while people were sitting on the bus in the outfield.
Hitting them over the students' heads to say, here comes another one. Windy as all get out that day. And Holden kind of sort of stayed with Trenton early, and then we're just like, we're better than you. So,
right, because she was hitting 7th or 8th in the lineup in that game.
Right.
That's how good that team was.
Right. And then, basketball, I remember, as you mentioned, Michaela Blackburn having very important contributions for that 2019 team. With Ainsley and Micah and Salem and, Taylor and Sydney, you would just think, okay, that's your power 5, but we had such good depth on those teams, and you never knew who might step up, make a big play.
I always thought those teams, the second string of those teams would have finished third in the GRC.
Absolutely.
They were just
They might have won the GRC.
I think they were near Stanberry level.
Yeah.
They were above Gallatin at that point.
Can you imagine being in the GRC as an opposing coach and coming into Trenton and, first of all, facing Trenton softball at their prime, and then in the JV game, out trots Ainsley Tolson to pitch 5 innings in the JV game. And then the next year, Blackburn trots out there. Back-to-back years we're throwing maybe 2 of the best 3 pitchers in the conference in JV games to follow. That's how deep that team was. And normally those JV contests, were a walk fest or whatever. But, man, they were loaded.
I know one of my biggest letdowns, and with all due respect, because they were just as advertised, a lot of the state, a lot of people in this area thought Trenton could play with Stratford. That didn't happen.
Yeah, that was
Stratford was a different animal.
Just a different animal. It's like Father Tolton in the fact that the Class 3 team was probably the best team in the state.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Father Tolton that year was Class 3 boys, but they would have beat the Class 4 and Class 5 champ. I'm certain of it.
I was really happy. They had a chance to play for third place.
Right.
And they go out and they beat Licking.
Stratford would have beat the Class 4 or 5 champ, although I think they even did beat them that year in another tournament. But, yeah, for our girls to come back and get third and win their last game was pretty neat.
It was the disappointment of when you have a game of that, because it was unbeaten against unbeaten, right?
That's correct.
You just want to have a game. Obviously, they'd be stupid to say, hey, Tom, are you rooting for Trenton? Absolutely, I'm rooting for Trenton. I would love to see a buzzer beater. Just if for a game of that caliber, give me something that's going to have people talking about it in 2050.
Right.
Yeah. Stratford is just too good. It is what it is. It's sports sometimes.
And they got the opportunity to do that in the game after.
Right.
Was it Licking? Was it right?
Yeah.
In the game versus Licking, where they went out and played a really good Licking team. And
there were only 2 teams that win their last game.
That's right.
I'll give you really, really quickly. As far as basketball goes, I had people after the call where I'm going, I was just juiced up for that whole entire game. So Milan boys basketball, Milan's always been a football town, and boys basketball, kind of like Trenton, has always kind of struggled a little bit. But they had, the Dabney boys came through there, and they had some talent around them, and this would have been very much like the Trenton 2017 team. That kind of came out of nowhere, as very young, had talent, but they go down to Mexico, Missouri. My only time ever broadcasting from Mexico High School, and they played Harrisburg. And you had a couple of teams that are hitting everything they put up at the rim. And the gym it's a state sectional. It's packed, it's loud. And I think the final might have been 96-91 Milan. And I had Milan people tell me, I have never heard you that excited for 4 straight quarters.
I got a clip of Milan boys versus Eugene, so I guess this would
have been 2 years.
Ball front court to Kempner. He'll drift to the 3-point arc. Stops, pops the 3.
Short.
No good. And Milan is off to Springfield in the Missouri Class 2 Show Me Showdown. The Wildcats will celebrate at center court with a 71-65 thriller.
So there's always backstories. So 2 years earlier, Milan had beaten Harrisburg in just an absolute thriller and went to Moberly in the quarterfinals. Don't know. I think they're playing Van Far. We're up the whole game and kind of young team that close to getting to the Final Four. The moment overtakes you, and you can't close it out. 2 years later, they get back to Moberly in the same spot, and they're playing Eugene, and they're down 20 points in the first half. And they come back, rally all the way, and win it, which just felt so good for those kids.
Very cool.
You got those nightmares of 2 years prior. Now, backstory, that was 2020. That was the week.
Oh, the week.
COVID.
Dun, dun, dun.
So Milan goes to Springfield, 200 people in the stands. They get blitzed by just much like Stratford. Hartville's just better. They blitzed everybody. They won Class 2. There was no third place game that day. I've never talked to Andrea Dabney about that, but I know, especially with her boys on that team, happy to get there, but boy, you don't like what COVID did.
If I remember right, they went and played those Class 2 games, 1 and 2, and with limited people in the stands.
200 people, yeah.
Right.
Just friends and family, maybe.
Right. And then the week after that, they didn't even get to Class 4 and 5 or 3, 4, and 5. Shut it down.
Right.
Shut it down.
Yep.
So Class 1 and 2 or 1, 2, and 3 got to play.
Correct.
And then the higher classes did not. Yeah.
Weird time.
Weird time.
That was a weird time. Weird time. I want to talk, let's flip it over to some NCMC basketball and highlights of those programs. And I've seen your comments fairly recently as the teams were preparing to go to the national NJCAA tourney. And you talked about how fortunate you felt to cover such high quality teams, to have them in your backyard,
right,
and be the voice of the Pirates.
I live 2 blocks from the Ketchum Center. So backstory on this too, I live 2 blocks from the Ketchum Center. I drive by it from the station to my apartment. And from August 1st of 2002 until the first game, I didn't know that was the arena that they played at. I went back and forth to work every day. And they said on November 1st, no, it's right there. You probably drive right by it. It's right on your left.
I hear that. Well, first of all, describe the atmosphere in the Ketchum Center during a big game. I mean, what's that? That thing doesn't have a feel of a junior college arena.
It's different. There's nothing that, I can't say nothing, but there's very little that gets me more excited than when I know the Ketchum Center is going to be packed to the rafters for a Pirate game. It's just, it feels, I know you guys have been there in those games. It feels different. It feels different than a November 15th game against Southwestern when there's a flag that's going to be given to the winner.
And just the thought that they get to host those games, it felt like, 10 or 15 years ago, we never got to host. We always had to go somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, it would be my North Dakota trip.
Right.
I went to Bismarck. I went to Bottineau, which is 5 miles from Canada. Long way to go, but that's another one of those, the longer that you go for a game.
Everybody's listening.
Yeah,
no one's driving.
There aren't that many people, and there's a Quonset hut that looks like something that Eskimos would be cooking their dinners in, that they're playing the games in. and the girls are complaining because it's 30 degrees outside and it's really, really cold, and I just want to go. I grew up in this neck of the woods.
They think it's warm today.
I want to go. It's 30 degrees on March the 7th. You shouldn't be complaining that much. But I remember, obviously, getting the victory, and then it's 17 hours or whatever it is, and we get back to within shouting distance from Des Moines down to Trenton. I think they had they had me involved in this too, getting a hold of a bunch of people in the community and saying, hey, we're going to be back at a decent hour. Let's have a welcome home party for the girls. And they had the Ketchum Center 40% full on a random. It might have been Sunday afternoon, if I remember right. And the girls were just, feel like superheroes.
That's really neat. Again, benefit of being in a small community.
It's a big thing. And I always say there's really only one good thing about winter as far as I'm concerned anywhere, and that's basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's in a warm gym. You can get in the gym. I'll drive through any kind of storm to get to a basketball gym when I was playing or coaching or whatever, and I love it. When you live in a small town and people go, well, isn't it kind of slow? In the wintertime, I go, not on a hot Saturday afternoon in that gym.
That's true.
Okay, speaking of gyms, I'm going to jump in here. Favorite gyms, because I love gyms too, and I like going to different stadiums. See, give me a couple gyms that you're like, oh man, I love it. I get to go to have a call in this gym, and then also give me a couple like, man, that is just like the worst gym to call a game, and I can't believe I got to go there again.
I'll say this, and I'll probably not make him a lot of friends by saying this. I wish Trenton had a way to get seating on the south side of the gym. I know that it's not going to happen anytime soon, but there's something about getting that noise coming from both sides.
Yeah.
Is what it is. So favorite gyms. I don't know if it's my favorite, but I've done so many games from there that's an easy call. And it feels like it's that week where high school basketball is here and we got big games. Gallatin.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if it's my favorite gym, but the Gallatin tournament always kind of gets you into basketball season. And there's always, once you get to the semifinals and finals, that's where you got your Hamiltons and your Trentons.
It's always a good mix, too, of smaller schools. And if there's a really good team from a small school, they feel like it's a David and Goliath scenario. When Winston was really good, or when Braymer was sending some good teams there.
I'll give you a team that was really good, that when they made it to state, and they loved being Little Dave. Newtown Harris.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, KJ and Cameron and
Cool in the gang.
Yeah, TJ Ireland. Yeah. They were so good. They ran into Scott County Central. They had a Georgetown University player on their team. We averaged about 38 rebounds a game, but against teams around here, they were good.
Okay, gym that you don't like or don't like the feel of.
Oh, you put me on the spot there.
We don't want to make anybody mad. You don't have.
Well, a gym that I loved, and it's been.
He wants to be able to sell those games.
Yeah, right.
Next time he goes there.
Sorry,
I'm not a huge fan. It's a very nice facility, but I compare it to the old place. I'm not a huge fan of the new Chillicothe gym.
Okay, because they had that.
They had the field house.
Field house, yeah.
And that field house, it's been probably 2003 or 4 since I've been in that field house, but that had such a big game feel to it.
Agreed.
Chillicothe's new gym is nice, but it feels like just any run-of-the-mill, big, decent sized school gym.
So I got a clip here from NCMC men's game in the NJCAA tournament a few years back. Pretty big win, so...
McComb needs to go length of the floor. Here's Hines, gets the ball inbounds to James. He'll put up a half-court shot at the buzzer. It's no good, and the Pirates are headed to the quarterfinals. The Pirates swing the upset of fourth-seeded McComb. Last year, McComb made it all the way to the national championship game before falling short on Saturday night in Danville. This year, in round 2, McComb goes out to North Central Missouri College, arguably the biggest victory in program history, as the Pirates stun Macomb Community College 82-80. The Pirates are now 27-6 on the season. Macomb will go into the losers bracket with a 28-4 record. The Pirates beat the Monarchs 82-80 in an absolute Tuesday morning thriller from Danville Area Community College.
Tuesday morning. Yeah. Some of the start times at the national tournament are a little bit different.
Yeah, how do you get fired up for a Tuesday morning 9:45 a.m. game? Right?
If it's 82-80 and your hopes of a national championship are on the line, get you rolling pretty good.
Yeah, create your own drama.
It's your pregame routine's a little different when you play that early in the morning.
A little bit, but you're in Danville and you got the rest of the day to yourself. So
that gym gets loud.
That's a fun gym. Again, for those that have never been to Danville, it's not as big as Chillicothe gym, but I would say it's similar, but it's just your run-of-the-mill, 10, 11, 12 rows of bleachers on both sides. They do right by that tournament, let's put it that way.
And probably good that they play it in a little bit smaller gym because that tournament can't pull the crowds from around the country.
You don't want to,
FEMA Arizona's not sending 4,000 people to Danville.
The University of Illinois is, a half hour west of there?
Yeah.
If you play it at Assembly Hall, it's going to be 5% full.
Right. So you got to play it in a little bit smaller gym with some character, and hopefully you can fill it up mostly and create some atmosphere.
So I hear that you may have a proposed nickname for the Ketchum Center.
Oh, well, I tried to get that rolling a little bit, the Ship.
The Ship for the Pirates.
Yeah, the Pirates. I got 2 ideas.
Okay.
So
Let's hear them.
So what do they do?
We'll give the podcast blessing.
Okay, I got this off of Missouri Western in their field house. What do they have? A bell that they ring after a victory for the Griffins? We need to have some pirate flags. And after every victory, we raise that pirate flag. We got one outside the women's locker room. We got one outside the men's locker room.
That's very cool. Well, right there in the gym.
The only problem with that, the only problem is the flags are never going to be flying because there's no wind in the gym.
True.
We hope.
True. But it's just symbolic. It's just symbolic.
Yeah, it's symbolic. I think
maybe on their new scoreboard they're getting, it could be something done like a video.
I think it's a cool idea.
By the way, when you do pirate stuff and play the Pirates of the Caribbean theme, that's awesome too. I love when you start doing that.
We can't do that on the podcast.
Right.
We don't have the
rights.
rights.
Get the rights.
Some of that stuff. We don't want to get into trouble and get shut down. Okay, so lots of late nights, travel. I heard a story maybe going back to Coach Richard Woods.
Oh, this is a good one.
Something about some food on the road.
You've had Esri on this podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, so Esri, I'm surprised I didn't see this at the time, but there's so many stories. And back in the day, NCMC, before St. Louis, I don't know how they describe it, but they conglomerated their basketball programs into one campus.
Right.
You would have to do back-to-back trips to St. Louis and take Merrimack, which is on the southwest side near Kirkwood, and then Forest Park, and then you'd have Flow Valley, which is up on the north side of the metro. And you have to split them into 2 weekends, so you're traveling a whole lot. Richard Woods, their stop is always, because it's basically halfway, but it's a nice stop. It's the Columbia Quick Trip.
Okay.
And it's usually Saturday morning. I know you guys know Woods. I mean, what a great character. Gets a egg roll for breakfast. Opens up the egg roll, and Esri's talking with him, and Richard is mad. There's no eggs in my egg roll.
Because if you want breakfast, of course you want an egg roll.
An egg roll. He goes, what is that?
Just had a misunderstanding of the concept of an egg roll.
Or he's playing the crowd like I would think Woodsy would have done.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Esri was such a coach on there because you would be on the bus and Richmond would be sitting next to me. You'd have Greg Keith was James' assistant. Jenny would probably be on the bus in 06 and 07. Richmond would usually turn around and be Esri, we all on?
Yeah,
and
right.
Esri would be like, yeah, we're on, coach. So even at that point, I just wonder how much that Steve saw a coaching bug a little bit in Jeremy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never know how that develops, right, and the experiences you get, and
his dad being an official, and he's grown up around the game. He played at different levels, and he was kind of a coach on the floor type player. I
know that you had the play-by-play from 2 years ago, the one you just had from Danville. This team, for those that are not aware, they might have been an injury short because I know that they had an injury to one of their key players this year. They are close to a national championship.
They were, yeah.
They're in that discussion. I know Jeremy has a part of it is you have to be a motivator. You have to be able to motivate young kids to what you want them to do. And really, I think a big part of coaching is can you take guys or gals and make them better than what they are
as a unit?
Yeah. Yes. And obviously, you need to have the connections. And I think Jeremy can do both. He has the connections, get the players, and I think he's good at taking guys. John Carroll's a perfect example of that. Guy who I thought struggled a little bit his freshman year, and he was a beast this year for his sophomore year. And you started seeing that coming out the end of last year. He finds gems and is able to get more out of them than you might think. And
it's even tougher at the junior college level when you get 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
You got 2 years to make this work.
Jeremy's well aware this is a very important recruiting class.
Yeah.
For him.
Well, and we had a couple of signings recently that are just maybe a notch above where a lot of our players have gone in the past at Morehead State. SIU.
Right.
Carbondale. So all good signs and definitely on the uptick. Women's sports have grown enormously. I mean, you've seen that. You've watched that over 22 years. I mean, women's sports have really taken hold and can be on par with men's sports in most.
I'll give a shout out to
ways.
NCMC for this. I'm sure you guys have seen. I think a lot of this is holiday hoops. NCMC back in the day, you do a game and say you want to go 2004, 2005 in that Max James era. How many people are listening? How big of a deal is NCMC? How many people are aware of it? They started getting people on campus with holiday hoops. I don't get that feeling anymore. People are well aware of NCMC as an option, especially if you're a good athlete. It's a great option. right here in Trenton. And from where it was 20 years ago, just with notoriety, to where it is now, it's night and day.
Yeah, no doubt that that's not a coincidence that we talked about.
They have
Holiday Hoops starting around that time, getting girl athletes on campus, realizing I can do something. I can play here, or I've got a friend that can play here, or the recruiting gets easier, and you start to build something. And then the longevity of our coaches has been a huge factor in that. The fact that Jenny was there for so long really built that up.
It would be so fun for me too. That I think the best team, I think certainly the best group in the history of NCMC women's basketball was your three, because of COVID, the 3-year sophomores.
Right, yeah.
The combination of Kennedy Crow, Macy Moore, and Nora Ford. I felt like I was broadcasting an all-star game every time I do a Lady Pirate game, because you have 8 or 9 players within 75 miles of campus that are the best players on their high school teams.
And it was coming because that third year, and when you heard that those girls were coming back for
we can be really good.
Another run at it,
right.
And that they had such a good time, even through COVID, those first couple of years, that they're going to run it back a third year. It's like, here we go.
It's we talked about this off the air, but I know there's people that are going to make a good decision on this. But with Jenny now down at William Jewell, that decision that needs to be made on who's the next coach, I know they're spinning their wheels and trying to find the right person. But it's going to be an interesting next couple of weeks here at NCMC.
What she laid out there for 18 years, keeping that going is important, but it's also hard.
You forget too, because I was looking at the press release from William Jewell from a couple of weeks ago when they announced the hiring. Jenny had some lean years here and there in her first 8-9 years, but once she got that ball rolling, I think it was that 2014 team that got down to Overland Park in the national tournament, that really kind of flipped things pretty quick.
Yeah,
she was kind of stuck in that rut where she'd have a really good team, and then she didn't quite have that power to say, okay, yeah, we're going to just reload. I think Jeremy's at that point where he reloads. I think Jenny got that thing, and it took until about 2017-18. So, okay, I think we're at the point where we just reload at this point.
Right, get a formula.
Yep.
Or a blueprint. And
it's not easy to get there. So for her to, kind of, be there as long as she was and get that thing turned to that level says a lot about her.
So a couple things I want to kind of close out on, and then we'll do some kind of area clips, because that's kind of a theme that you're the broadcaster, you're the voice for North Central Missouri. In fact, a working title of this episode is North Central Missouri's Voice of Sports. Tom Johnson coming to you from, because you can be anywhere, and that's cool. But what haven't you done that you'd like to do? Have you got a bucket list?
I've never been to, and I think this is just, there is a zone here in this area. There are programs, but there hasn't been that powerhouse program. I'd love to do a volleyball sectional. I know Trenton has been close, hasn't been able to get that district final. I remember going by, so this is when I was traveling down to the Trenton, and who did the girls play in the quarterfinals for softball?
Holden?
Yes. I forgot what school it was, but they had the volleyball sectionals there that day, in which case they have 3 matches, because they bring in 4 district finals, and then you play
right, like
matches,
tennis, yeah.
And the joint was packed. And there's very little like good volleyball in a big time atmosphere. It's different, but when the teams are good and it's a good match, it can be really fun.
It's done stunning things like Nebraska attendance records and Penn State.
And I think I'm right on this. I think the Final Four is coming to Civic Arena, is it not? From
sounds
Cape Girardeau?
right.
I think it is.
Right.
It's been down to Cape Girardeau for years, and which is the case of, do we send Tom all the way down to Cape Girardeau to cover volleyball on a Friday if he's here for football? That's a hard decision.
I always thought it was interesting that they even had it in Cape Girardeau, knowing that teams from Northwest Missouri, the trip they would have to make.
Right.
That's a lot.
But, now the teams down there are going to be like, St. Joseph, what? Okay, here we go.
Gym that I love. I've had this discussion with Dave Miles through the years, because it is loud. You can have 40 people in there and it's loud. Gilman City. The smallest little old gym that you can ever imagine, But if you're in there and it's a big game, it's fun. It's a different atmosphere.
With the old school curved wooden timbers. Yeah.
I always thought that was a difficult shooting background, but Monica Wilson made it work. She was pretty good in that gym.
They had the smaller fanned backboards forever too.
It's just one of those gyms that when it's loud, and there's a difference. You can be at Trenton High School and it's loud and the sound isn't ringing in your ears. It rings your ears at Gilman City.
I've been there and got there 2 hours before game so you could get in the gym. I mean,
correct.
It's a deal. Okay, another question for you. What did it mean to you to get inducted into the North Central Missouri Sports Hall of Fame in 2022?
That meant a whole lot. It was Max Mothersbaugh that had inducted me, and they were trying to work around COVID and all kinds of things. And he would come to me and say, hey, I'm going to nominate you. So I have to give a shout out to Max for that. And I know he was very appreciative because right off the bat, he was coaching 02 and 03. And one of the first big games that I did was down at Cotty when they beat, I think it was a number 2 ranked Penn Valley to win a region title. Very appreciative of that. But you don't do it to be honored, but when you are, you're appreciative of it, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think many play-by-play broadcasters do it because I want to be patted on the back. But you do appreciate it, that somebody recognizes it.
Makes you think of all the people along the way, I'm sure, that opened up to you, coaches that helped you get insights into things. And
all the road trips and the stops at Taco Bell and
right. It makes you
quick trip.
I'm a freshman at Northwestern in 92, 93, where you're trying to decide what do I want to do with my career, and I was like, you know what? There's a basketball program here that's kind of fun, and they have the spots WVOE, which is the voice of the Eagles, which is just a non-campus little radio station. I'm like, I could do that. That's pretty fun. We had this small little rickety gym that we were in until they had a new gym. First event they ever had in it. My graduation in 96. My only recollection of there. But yeah, you think about a decision like that going, if it's not for that, where would I be today?
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay, so we're going to wind this out, and I'm going to just play some clips, and I'll play them kind of in a row here. There are going to be 3 clips. Let you give a little talk, and then we'll close this thing out.
1-0 the count to Annabelle Ball. Here comes the set
softball.
in the pitch by Snow. That is blasted toward left. Hit a ton. That ball's way back, and it's gone. Annabelle Ball rips it over the left field fence. And Gallatin is within a run here in the bottom of the 6th inning.
And the next one we got is a Meadville girls action in state
Carmel Hall
championship
hits
game.
both. 5 seconds to go. 3, 2, 1. Shot at the horn. Air ball. State championship will be bathed in purple. The Class 1 state title goes to the Meadville Lady Eagles, who wrestled momentum away from Chadwick in the 4th quarter. Meadville goes 31-0 and wins the Class 1 state title 39-28 against Chadwick. What a gritty performance by this band of still very young Meadville Lady Eagles. Second free throw for Nicole
Mercer
Cost.
girls.
Count it. Cost hit them both. And for the first time in school history, Mercer, you got yourself a state champion. The Mercer Lady Cardinals are the Class 1 2017 state champions. An 8-year run of exemplary basketball with 2 great senior classes. It ends with Mercer at the top of the mountain. The final score in the Class 1 state title game, the Mercer Lady Cardinals 43 and the Walnut Grove Lady Tigers 34. That program Dan Owens built up at Mercer, they were deserving of a state title at that point. They had been so many losses to Jefferson and getting here and there, or getting to the quarterfinals. People forget they didn't win a state championship with Sierra Michaelis and Courtney Owens there. It was a second group that came through that got them to the top of the mountain. But that's a lot of great players and a great program that Coach Owens had built that was very deserving of state championship.
And you're right, and a lot of time and effort and open gyms and practices and traveling and games played, and all of that. You're right. That one was well deserved.
That was such a fun year too, because Mercer was down there in Class 1. Who was down there that year in Class 3?
Trenton.
Yeah.
And you could go from gym to gym and watch the games. Yeah.
Yeah. Mercer was at Mizzou Arena and Trenton was at the Hearn Center. I to this day too. So John Cowling has told me this: the game that Trenton played and lost to Whitfield in the Hearn Center.
Right. Yeah.
We didn't play great. I think we're get behind. You can tell the girls are nervous. Playing a big St. Louis city school. Was it Ashton Whitaker hit 3 3-pointers in the first quarter? And John goes, I don't know what you had on your mic, but that third 3-pointer that Ashton hit, it's the loudest. You could just hear the whole city of Trenton sounded like they were there.
There were a ton of Trenton people that came down to that game, and I remember thinking, oh, okay, what's the reaction going to be? We're in Hearns, not Mizzou Arena, and we pull up and I turn the corner to park, and there's already a line, and it's almost all black and gold.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, here we go. Everybody made the trip. It's going to be crazy.
The pass stolen by Tolson. The rebounded Daniels, and her bounce pass picked off by Ainsley. Tolson gets the ball inside to Lynch. Lynch back outside. Whitaker, another 3-ball. Good! Third 3 of the quarter for Ashton Whitaker. 14-12. Whitfield with the lead. 50 seconds to go in the opening quarter.
Well, that was about the best timing, Jeff. You win the award.
That was pretty good.
Can we get an Emmy nomination in here? Because for you to pull that clip seamlessly right in there after Tom describes that moment.
I will say that I know she hit 3 3-pointers.
Yeah, she did. And it was one of those strategies. I know Whitfield had watched our girls play.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they were pretty content with letting Ashton be the one to shoot. And Ashton was like, okay, I'll take these. Bang, bang, bang. And kept us in the game there in the first half.
You think on it, yeah, Ashton knows she's a role player. She's not Ainsley. She's not Micah. For her to step up and have a moment like that in the first quarter, what a cool moment for her.
Yeah, really neat.
Yeah.
Another D1 player we had to play against in that game. Yeah.
As a sophomore.
No,
a really good player.
She was just on at that game and kept us in touch in that game throughout. Okay, so we're going to wind this out, and we kept you here for a long time.
Just talking memories, just talking hoops.
This is what it's all about, you guys. This is what it's all about. We might do a 3-parter, a 4-parter, whatever we got to do.
Yeah, the key here is you could tell the voice, the enthusiasm, the background information that you had about Mercer's program and about Meadville's historic season and Gallatin. It's not just Bulldog enthusiasm. It's the enthusiasm that you bring to what young people are doing. So I just want to say thanks for all the young athletes. And like you said, the farther you go away to a game, the more you know there's a community back behind that is tuned in.
And the fun thing, I think Trenton's in this zone. Certainly Chillicothe is in this zone, but you don't get much bigger than Chillicothe. If your community gets too big, if it's a city school, you don't have the same, you got moms and dads and grandpas there, but you don't have the same community spirit. Like you mentioned, Chillicothe would bring it, Trenton would bring it, obviously. You don't get much bigger than that, and you kind of lose a little bit in that class 5 or 6. There's something about getting to states in a community Trenton size that just made it really cool.
Yeah.
You know, there's going to be a community of 6,000. There are going to be a lot of people that make that trip.
Right. And it's very important to that community because it's something that bonds the community together. Our athletics always have. And I always used to tell people, we are spoiled. Don't take it for granted that we have a radio that will cover our kids and cover them all the way from their first game to their state game, or even if they're 5 and 25, they will cover you. We've got a voice that's been the voice for 20 plus years, and it makes the memories even better, makes the experience even better. So again, yeah, thank you from me too, because we got to work together in many capacities, whether I was coaching or AD and had to call you and say, you know, are you going to be at the game? I'm going to set you up. I even remember when we were remodeling the Trenton gym thinking, I'm getting this kind of table because I know right where Tom wants to sit. And when we redid that. So, yeah, good stuff.
Well, these are big games to the communities and to the guys and gals that are playing them. And it seems bigger when KTTN and Tom are at that game. And the listeners and supporters of the local teams can feel that energy.
I'll just put the message out there, too, because I know there have been decisions made at stations that are not us. We will just leave it at that, where their local coverage isn't quite what it used to be. So we're trying to do that expanding our coverage, and at the same time, we don't want to take 20 Trenton broadcasts and turn that into 10. We're doing a little bit of both, but if you're interested, we are always interested. But radio is a business.
That's true.
We won't go out and do it for free. Those commercials that you have to hear on the air, they're there for a reason.
We appreciate your time, appreciate the stories. Love having you on the podcast. We want to thank our listeners from Show Me Sports Legacies.